they would like to speak, they need a mic.
Okay, welcome everybody. We okay to start, Ben? Yeah. Okay. We want to welcome everybody to the TAC meeting today. We have several people here in person, and we have a few people online with us. Those that are online, can you hear us okay? Would somebody raise their hand or speak up?
You sound great, Boyd.
Okay, great.
I can't see who it is. Sound great.
Thank you. Okay, we want to welcome everybody online. Appreciate everybody's attendance today. We'll jump right into the agenda. First item is the approval of the minutes from May 31st. We need a motion to approve those minutes. Is there anybody willing to make a motion? And if you would tell us which city you represent. Layton City. Okay, we have a motion by Layton City to approve the minutes. Do we have a second? Okay, Dave Williams with Clinton City. Thanks, Dave. So a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? And online, are there any opposed? If you would raise your hand or speak up. Okay, thank you. Those minutes are approved. Oh, and I forgot to thank Woods Cross City for providing the refreshments today. They'll also be doing a presentation, and so thank you. And please make sure you grab something during the meeting or on your way out. Item 2 is tip business, and we'll turn the time to Ben. Oh, Rosie asked me to make an announcement. I forgot. If anybody needs to speak, please use the microphone so that the people online can hear. Ben.
Thanks, Boyd. Boy, this podium really makes you feel little, doesn't it? Well, thanks everyone for being here. Today we have the opportunity, as you're well aware, we've gone through the public review and comment process on the Transportation Improvement Program with its conformity determination. In the minutes, we attached a link to the map as well as to the tables of the projects. We didn't want to print everything out, but there's a copy of this material that you can access via the web, which has all of the projects. The first front pages have the WF4C programs. These are all the projects that you reviewed and approved and recommended. Then we've got the other projects behind that are the UDOT projects where they take the lead in the programming. Their quality, actually, Boyd, we had that so we could pull that up there. The very first link, just want to make you aware of on the map is, of course, well, this is the air quality memorandum. And then we've got an interactive map. And hopefully some of you took the opportunity to go online, look at the projects, verify the information. This is part of the responsibilities that you have, is to make sure within your jurisdiction that we've got the project, we've got the information listed correctly. This information is available for the public. Hopefully your citizens are accessing. We'll talk in just a minute if Wayne comes on. He's going to give us a quick summary there on the public comments that were received. We received a little more than 300 comments this year. But hopefully this information and this interactive map will stay then online. The comment portion will be withdrawn, but that'll give opportunities for individuals to be able to look at various projects that are happening in their area or in their neighboring area or in an area of interest. We do welcome and we solicit the comments from our public and want you to know, as well as them, is when we review those comments, we review with the Department of Transportation as well as UTA those projects or those comments that are necessary. We haven't done as well in the past, but we will in the future, is bring those comments back to the local jurisdiction. So that as we're looking at a project, or as we're looking at the inputs that various citizens have, that we're able to access that info with the city, you're aware of it. We try to cover some of it in our orientation meetings on the project, but we want to be a little more proactive in bringing this information out to you. But overall, the biggest input that we had in the Ogden-Layton area was regarding a project up Ogden Canyon, and that's the bike ped facility there. There are other comments, and Wayne will talk about that, but there was no other information that was brought about during the review and comment period that would require any additional action. So we want to bring this to you for your review and recommendation to TransCom, which will meet here in a week, I guess a week and a half. They'll then review that information and make that recommendation to the regional council, which will meet at the end of August. They'll approve the tip. That information then will be pushed up to the department, which will already be included in the statewide transportation improvement program. And then at the end of the month, will be submitted to Federal Highways and Federal Transit for their review during the month of September. And then come 1st of October, we'll have a new transportation improvement program, the 2024-2029 tip. That's all sound cool, right? In just a few minutes, we're going to talk about the 2030 tip, which is starting here in about 7 minutes. So that's a pretty exciting process that we have an opportunity to go through. Are there any questions on the draft tip or the conformity memorandum for the tip that, that we should take to TransCom? Okay, maybe just because Boyd, I had you pull them up, let's show the other two documents just for kicks and giggles. So here's the map. There's a copy of the table. It's about 140 pages. And then the air quality memorandum, which is right after this one. So you are aware that it's information. Hopefully, after the end of our last meeting too, we appreciate all the hard work Rosie does. She sent out that information. She sent out a copy of the tables of all the new projects, just so you'd have that again for reference. But if there's no questions there, Wayne, do you want to take a minute and review the comments?
Sorry for the delay. Thanks for the chance to just share. I'm not aware what you already mentioned, but at the risk of repeating a little, there was a bit of confusion in Salt Lake County. Lots of people were under the impression that the gondola up, the proposed gondola up Little Cottonwood Canyon would be or was in the Transportation Improvement Program. It is not in the Transportation Improvement Program. It's in phase 3 of the Regional Transportation Plan, that 2023 to 2050 RTP that the Regional Council, the board approved back in May, with the statement that they were in support of phase 1 of the improvements up Little and Big Cottonwood Canyons that are identified and wanted an evaluation of those improvements before moving to phase 3, whenever that point in time occurs. So right now, there are most of the phase 1 improvements identified in the Little Cottonwood Canyon environmental impact statement included in the tip, in the draft tip. They were actually amended into the existing tip back in June by TransCom, and And those include improved bus service, enhanced bus service, significantly increased bus service, a mobility hub at the mouths of the canyon, and a couple of improved transit stops as well as tolling. And so while we received a lot of comments against the gondola, we also received numerous comments in support of those phase 1 improvements up the canyons. And Ben may have mentioned there were also a few dozen comments in support of a pedestrian bridge over a busy arterial in Salt Lake County. And there were a handful of requests for more transit service and improved or safer facilities for cyclists and pedestrians, including crossings and separating of modes and that type of thing. And also a few comments in support of front runner double tracking, which there's been some money included in the transportation improvement program for strategic double tracking at a handful of locations. So any questions about those public comments? That's just an overview. There were over 300 comments, and the vast majority of those dealt with either opposition to the gondola or even though it's not in the TIP, and also support for those phase 1 improvements of improved transit service up those canyons. If not, thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks, Wayne. I didn't take any of your thunder. I didn't, okay, well then, if it's all right, Mr. Chair, if we move on to item number 3. Great. And Rosie, if we can pull that up. So, hasn't been quite 7 minutes, but we're going to talk about the 2025, 2020, or 2030 Transportation Improvement Program by introducing to you and reminding you of the programs the Wasatch Front Regional Council has the responsibility to coordinate. Online, we've got Marsha White. She will cover part of the discussion. I'm going to cover primarily the 4 programs that we deal mostly with in the TransCom TACs. And those are the programs, if we can go to the next, I guess. Okay. Now looking official with a clicker, we've got the Surface Transportation Program, STP program, Congestion Mitigation Air Quality Program, that's the CMAQ program, Transportation Alternatives Program, or the TAP program, and the new Carbon Reduction Program. Well, it's old now. It's been around a year, so it's old hat, but that's the CRP program. Then in this discussion here, we'll go through the Transportation Land Use Connection Program. This is a program that generally we don't bring to the TAC, the TransCom TAC, and this is a planning opportunity or resource that we want to make sure that you, as the engineers and the public works, are aware of in your cities so that it can be implemented or utilized in the cities or a combination of the cities. Station Area Plan Technical Assistance, the Wasatch Front Economic Development District, the Community Development Block Grant, and Community Impact Board. And Marshall will cover those bottom 5. I'll take the top 4. So, as you're aware or familiar with, these 4 programs that we have an opportunity to identify and to recommend programming for, the Surface Transportation Program being the largest of that program in the area. Generally, we get about 10 to 12 million in the Ogden-Layton area. Now, remembering our urban area in the Ogden-Layton area, it goes from essentially Brigham City all the way down to Salt Lake. So it's a fairly large geographical area. There's a lot of needs. As you know, our smaller towns are growing into smaller or larger cities, and some of them farm to market roads are growing up and they need to be widened. So STP funds would be a good program for those types of improvements. Now, this program, we're also going to take to the COGS. We want the elected officials to be aware of these resources so that when they come back to you and say, hey, have you heard of these programs? You nod with confidence, say, absolutely, we know how this works. What do you need? And then you guys will hopefully get a bonus and everything will go better because the mayor's going to go and recognize how awesome you are. But in the STP program, it's to improve or reconstruct our existing structures, our streets, those that are federal aid eligible, that's a collector road, arterial road, or greater. We got bridge replacement. Of course, the state has a lot of resources right now on bridge replacement too, and they're doing an amazing job of reaching out and helping local governments take care of the bridges. Projects that reduce traffic demand and intersection improvements. Now, these are just a small drop in the bucket type of improvements. You can go back and look at past projects that we've approved if you're trying to think of, you get back in the office and you got so much going on, you maybe freeze up. Well, just pull up the tip tables and go back into programs and look at the various projects that have been identified in the past and go, dang, I got one of those, and that's a project we can go after, or give us a call and we're happy to help and walk you through and strategize together. But let's look at what an example here. This is one that we've used in the past. It gives us just a prolific identification of the STP program. Above, you can see this is 5600 West between 6200 South and 70th South in West Jordan. You can see it's a 2-lane facility. You've got shoulder, we've got curb and gutter on one side of the road. We've got nothing on the other side of the road. And then after the program was implemented, look at that, we've got a 5-lane section with center turn lane, 2 travel lanes in each direction, bike lanes in each direction, curb gutter and sidewalk on both sides, and lighting. Beautiful facility. I mean, as an engineer, you got to think this is something I'd hang in my living room. That is a good looking picture. Now, the other program we got is the Congestion Mitigation Air Quality Program. Now, this program has a little more restriction than the STP program. The CMAQ program has to demonstrate an air quality benefit. So here's a list of those kind of projects, and you think, holy cow, that's a list. But that's not all. But if you look back at some of the projects that we have funded in the past, picture speaks 1,000 words. So just think how big this slide would be if I wrote down all these words. But look, and then in the upper left-hand corner there, you can see construct or purchase transportation facilities and equipment, the buses, the vans. Then we go to the ITS. There, we've got there at Region 2, the Commuter Link Center. We've got the ATMS boards. We've got Signal Interconnect. That drops us down to the lower left there with the Signal Interconnect. And then we've got commuter-related bicycle and ped facilities. So we got bike lockers. We've got the improvements there. That's in the DNRG there through the Roy area. Probably all know that. Then we've got green bikes and other projects that are eligible for emissions improvements and air quality improvement that's commuter related. So think of all those opportunities in your area. Another one that's not really highlighted up there is intersections. But we, again, could talk about quite a few projects that are eligible, and we're soliciting, we're pushing out to you. Come back with ideas for projects that are good projects. Let's strategize together and look at a priority that may be successful. Next project is, of course, our Transportation Alternative Program. This one here is a program that will relate to or can address active transportation improvements that are more recreational, not only commuter related. So it can construct, plan, and design bike and ped facilities for non-motorized forms. Improvements include, as you can see, the sidewalk, bike infrastructure, traffic calming techniques, lighting and safety, safe routes to school type projects. This is a good program for that active transportation category that we're addressing almost with every project we look at now. Then we've got the carbon reduction program. Oh, sorry, I forgot my example there. So you can see the DNRG, what a beautiful facility. Some of you may remember back in the the early 2000s when we were looking at this and trying to think how we're going to have this trail. Look at this. It goes all the way up past West Haven there and comes all the way down into West Bountiful. Beautiful facility. Gives a lot of recreational use, gives a lot of communal related, but a fantastic backbone there on the active transportation. Now we move into carbon reduction program, CRP. This is to reduce transportation related CO2. So it can, if we reduce traffic congestion, alternatives to single occupant vehicle trips, this can be the planning, design, and construction of bike ped facilities and other non-motorized forms of transportation improvements. This is leaning a little more, the carbon reduction program is real close to our CMAQ program, or our congestion mitigation air quality program. So this kind of gives us almost a double dip. Where can we go in there and what can we accomplish? You know, we've got the traffic signal coordination, the intersection improvements, alternative fuels, and other types of projects. So these are the 4 programs you're very familiar with. If you've got questions, as you go back and think, what's going to happen is we're going to, Marcia, I'm going to jump ahead, skip you just a second, and we'll come back to you. After we're done with this, we're going to have Rosie pull up a picture of what the packet will look like. And we can't hand out the packet yet. Council hasn't given us a direction to seek letters of intent. That'll happen at the end of August when we meet with the regional council. But that packet will go out to everybody. That'll go out to all of you. It'll go out to the mayors. It'll go out to the RGC TACs. Those are the other guys. But this will give you an idea. It lists all of the programs that we've talked about. Each one has its own individual sheet that identifies and talks a little more specific on the funding source, what's eligible, what you need to do, and what some of our timelines are. So that's going to go out at the end of August, 1st of September, those requests for letters of intent. If we scroll right to the bottom there, it should show us that are due on September 28th, 2023. And then the applications or the concept reports will be due back to us by December 7th. That's a pretty famous day. But you can see there's a table that identifies the different programs, how much is available, and some of the dates and times. So I'll stop that. Marcia, if you want to take it for the next 5 programs.
Ben, it's not fair to follow you, just so you know. I'm not as fun or as energetic as Ben, but I get to do I think the fun part is always telling people about funding. So the next up we have, let's see, one more slide, Rosie. Oh, that's fine. So the planning, if you go back one slide real quick, sorry, I should, whoop, one more forward. Okay, now I'm having fun, back and forth, back and forth. One more. There you go. Okay, perfect, stop. So the funding programs that I get to tell you about today are, I'm going to start off with the transportation and land use connection funding that we have. It's a planning technical assistance, and we have partners that we work with, UDOT, you can see them there, UDOT, Salt Lake County, UTA, and then ourselves. This program goes to support local governments in their planning efforts to implement the Wasatch Choice Vision. And we actually allocate over $2.1 million in annual funding. So it's a good program to take a look at. Next slide, Rosie, if you could. The goal of this program is to maximize the value of your investment in public infrastructure, which many of you are on this call, access to opportunities, and then create communities with opportunities to live, work, and play. Go to the next slide. You'll notice that one of the things that we really try to do is meet the communities where they're at. So If you're at a planning stage, great. If you're in the middle of a policy stage, then we try to meet you there. Or even if you're at the end of the stage and want to look at products, we're able to do that as well. So that's the TLC funding opportunity. Go to the next slide. We also have new this year, actually in 2022, the state legislature decided that they required cities that have fixed rail or BRT stations around either a half-mile radius or a quarter-mile radius around BRT stations to, they're requiring station area plans. If you go to the next slide, what we're trying to do is the plan is to trying to increase the availability of affordable housing, promoting sustainable environments, enhancing access to opportunities, and then transportation choices. On the next slide, it shows just what we're trying to do. We were issued $5 million from GOEO over the next 2 years to really help solidify the plans around these station areas. And so if you have a station area in your area, please make sure that you reach out. These applications are awarded on a rolling basis. They can be anywhere from $50,000 to $250,000, depending on how many BRT stations or station areas you have in your area. So I know there's a few up in the northern half that we're talking about. So if those are one of your cities, please reach out to us and let us know how we can help you guys. The next slide. The Wasatch Front Economic Development District also has funding opportunities, different than maybe some of the ones that we've just heard of, but we have opportunities that are through the Economic Development Administration. And so if you go to the next slide, there are 3 pots of funding opportunities that fit into or easily fit into cities and towns. And you can see the kind of the range there, 100,000 up to $3 million, 500,000 and 300,000. But you can see that there's a different pots depending on what you're looking at. So if you have a feasibility study that you want to do around, an economic driver, maybe around your BRT station or around a station area plan, if you want to do a feasibility study that will bring jobs, and this might be a funding opportunity for you to look at. And then the last one I get to talk about is the Community Development and Block Grant, or a lot of people call it CDBG. We also have a small funding opportunity for cities that are looking principally in the areas that are for low and moderate income and fit within Morgan, Tooele, Weber counties, Davis, Salt Lake counties. Ogden City receives their own CDBG funding, so they're not eligible, but we have an opportunity for funding there as well. Just some of the eligible projects that we've funded or have looked at in the past are you can do some planning, you could maybe do some building rehab, you could look at demolition of buildings and trying to reduce some of the blight. So kind of looking at a different pot of money for a different reason, but just trying to bring it all together so that you guys know that we have some funding opportunities and we're here to help you. The last slide that I have up is that for the most part, most of these funding opportunities are started in August. So letters of intent, trying to get out and trying to figure out if your project fits any one of these projects. And then in December, looking at the final project and putting in final applications and then awarding them in the spring. The Economic Development Administration grants do not need those. They're on a rolling basis, and so are the station area plans. But for the most part, if you can get that into your head that it's August to December, then that will help keeping you at least aligned with all the other opportunities we have. With that, Ben, thanks. I'm sorry I'm not as fun and exciting as you. I'm going to come up with a joke the next time, but here's our contact information. And if all you know is Ben's contact information and it's not the right project or program for his opportunities, he will definitely get it to us and vice versa. So if there's any questions, I'd be open to them. And if not, yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Marcia. You were awesome. You did great. Are there, as Marcia indicated, any questions on any of these programs or maybe the timelines? All right, that's all we have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ben and Marcia. And Marcia, you were very entertaining. Whenever you talk about money, it's very interesting. So we all like you a lot. So
I
thank you.
appreciate that.
Okay, next item is presentation by Woods Cross City, Sam Christiansen, and he's recruited Greg Siegmiller with JUB Engineers to help. We'll turn the time over to you guys.
Want me to get right to the screen share then?
Yeah, right to it. Thank you for the, let us having a few minutes here, everybody's time. Just kind of give a little description about Woods Cross City. Greg's trying to, is he sharing it? Everybody should see the presentation. One of the things that we were asked to present on was some unique challenges that Woods Cross is dealing with in the areas of transportation and in general. Greg, I don't know if you want to just go down to the, there you go.
There we go.
Go to the next one. So Woods Cross is, we're about 11,500 residents. We're in Southern Davis County. Everybody is well aware of the area in Southern Davis County. We have about 3,500 homes. We're about 36 lane miles of roadway. And we're about just as, compared to a lot of other cities, we're only 3.8 square miles. We service everything within our city boundaries except for sanitary sewer. Our neighbors around us are Bountiful City to the east, West Bountiful to the north, and North Salt Lake City to the south, and the nature preserve out to the west. So we're kind of, you can say, landlocked except for a little bit of small area for development that's all owned by one property owner. We're one of the communities that we have literally, sounds like the movie, planes, trains, and automobiles within our city. We have a rail station, we have a private airport, and of course cars, pedestrians. And we're also, just because of the proximity of having refineries in our boundaries, refinery to the north and multiple refineries to the south, we also have a lot of petroleum lines in our city, which causes a lot of havoc. So a lot of interesting things we deal with. One of the things we want to talk about that's been kind of a challenge for our city, and also Greg's kind of lots more knowledge on this one because he's been dealing with it longer than I have, is just subsidence. We have some homes that are sinking that the city has been actively helping out residents. We've helped about, 15 to 20 homes in the last few years. 20 plus homes. We're looking to fund an additional 3 homes to help here. But that also is affecting our roads and streets as well. We have manholes they look like they're raising, but they're not. It's the road settling around the manholes. Some of them have raised. There's a 6-inch gap on some of them. So it's greatly affected our road budgets and planning, and we're trying to help residents and also keep on top of our road maintenance plans and improvements. So I'll turn time over to Greg, kind of discuss a little bit more about the subsidence.
Thank you. So some of the causes that we've kind of pinned down are that of drought, recharge area depletion, and pumping that's going on in the area. There's high quality water right in the Woods Cross area, and so there's a lot of different entities that have been pumping water out of that area. In 2015, we had some calls, this picture hasn't been skewed or anything. That porch actually goes up about 6 inches relative to the rest of the house. Just around the corner is this house. This one drops about 4 inches from the house. So one's going up, the other's down. We found out later that this one here has actually had some piers in the front, that the house was coming down and the other one didn't. Walking into some of these homes, you see some major gaps in the ceiling. Really a stressful thing for these homeowners. Sometimes doors don't open anymore. Here's a door that hopefully you're not inside the closet when something creaks and you can't get out. This is interesting here. When we start seeing trusses come apart, that's a big flag for a real issue there. But the trusses just pull out of their nail plates, and that becomes really problematic. This here is even more problematic. If that house were to settle a couple more inches, then the gas lateral becomes in danger, and that's not a good thing. So we've been working quite a bit with the Questar gas in this neighborhood. It also affects the rest of the city. This is a well that's close to the neighborhood. If you take kind of a side view of this same valve, you see that valve's dropped, a good 1.5 inches or so. After this photo was taken, just a few months after, well, about a year after actually, this pipe actually sheared and we had to go in and replace it. What's happening is the well that's to the left isn't settling because it's down several hundred feet. The pipes to the right are settling, and so you get a stress problem there with that happening. One of the things that we did after 2015 is we hired a company that does INSAR. They basically take a look at a period in time. This is a period of time of 5 years, and compare the videos or the photos, and then can kind of tell you how much the areas have dropped. That area around the center of the target is Woods Cross, a little bit of North Salt Lake. That 6 there in the middle, that contour of 6 is actually 6 centimeters. So in a 5-year period, that dropped about 2.5 inches. The next period here is just a 1-year period, and there's a 5 there in that. So relative to the rest of the world, relative to the satellite, this area in those 6 years has dropped about 4 or 5 inches. So that's going to wreak some havoc on wells and things like that, and obviously some homes that we've had. The problems, as I mentioned earlier, are groundwater depletion. So you don't have the same water going back in, the recharge going back into the aquifers. We've had quite a bit of drought, and so you see these wells that have the groundwater table has dropped as much as 40, 50 feet over a period of time that is now reflecting in the soils and issues like that. So here's your water cycle back to Water 101 or elementary school. You kind of see what's happening there with the Wasatch Front. Water comes down from the mountains, gets to the Great Salt Lake. The groundwater goes in, that dotted line there is the groundwater. So to blow up on that, you've got wells kind of pumping it out, and then you've got flowing wells down in the Woods Cross area that used to come out of the ground. The problem is that dashed line representing the water surface has dropped due to those 3 issues. And then you turn on a pump and it drops even more, especially if you're pumping quite a bit. So that's been kind of the issue. We've been looking at alternatives to try and rectify that. I don't think I'm going to get into this, but it kind of is like having water in a colander like this in the Great Salt Lake, and how it transmits from the lake to the surrounding groundwater and vice versa. You get a lot of water evaporating out of the Great Salt Lake, and it's going to reflect in the groundwater table. You put a lot of water in the Great Salt Lake, and sometimes that pushes that water into the surrounding groundwater table, which becomes a sailing issue. And I don't mean sailing boats, but sailing is in salt. So it's something that we've been keeping an eye on. Some of our solutions: recharge the groundwater, look at aquifer recovery and storage.
aquifer storage and recovery. Also, we don't want to get to a point of groundwater management plans. That's basically where the older rights get seniority over the younger water rights, and that's problematic. We've been looking at reuse for irrigation and also reuse for industry. Those are some of the directions that we're kind of pushing towards. We've had quite a few partners. Other cities have been involved with us in the South Davis area. Irrigation companies, Weber Basin specifically, and some others as well. Industrial users, there's refineries using quite a bit of water in that area that have been involved. And sewer districts, of course, they will be key to this reuse plan. Hopefully we can get some more lawmakers involved, and just getting the information out to the public is important to us. That's it. If you have any questions, I don't know if there's time for questions. Go ahead.
Is it mostly because, oh, luckily I got a mic right here. Is it mostly because there's a lot of wells in Woods Cross, or is there something unique about Woods Cross? Because it's just Woods Cross City essentially that's
Well, they're seeing it
experiencing
in other
this, right?
cities. Prior to coming to Woods Cross, I worked for North Salt Lake, and we could see that in their well houses as well. Multiple of their wells, they've had to readjust piping. North Salt Lake just spent a lot of money fixing a lot of their wells this last spring. There is a lot of concentration of wells within the city boundaries and surrounding the boundaries, that it is good, clean, quality water, and a lot of entities took advantage of it. And you combine that with the drought, so the recharge area, we had just 20-year drought cycle, which we're still in. I know we had a big nasty winter this last winter, but it's not going to get us out of the drought cycle. We need a few more of those. But also the other thing is development on the hillside. That's the recharge area for the aquifer. So rooftops, asphalt, concrete, that all diverts water from going into the recharge area and going down storm drain systems. So it's kind of a combination of the three. Ultimately, what's causing it in Woods Cross, there's about a clay layer about 30 feet deep. It used to sit in water, and the aquifer dropped, and that clay layer is consolidating, and that's the subsidence.
Yeah, and we'd be hesitant to paint a target on the well users because of these other things. I mean, we can do some things as far as recharging up in the foothills, and we're working with Bountiful on that. And so, yeah, there's lots of things that are causing it, but we see it the most in the wells because you see that water level up and down. Good question.
All right, got another question. Nobody else has one. So is the city actually helping financially with some of the residents with their
So
homes?
the city RDA is financially helping, and also the city has applied for and gotten block grants from the county the last 5 years.
Yeah, at least.
So we'll continue applying for those grants. The RDA committee is committed to financially help these residents. The thought is if we keep people in their homes and try and keep their home values up, that the people will stay, and then the land values to stay up, and the community will stay strong, as Woods Cross is a pretty resilient community. And we just wanted the residents to feel like the city was helping as best we can. Obviously, we can't go in and fix every home, but I think this year we're hoping to help 2 or 3 homes this year. And we've helped over 20 homes so far since 2015.
If you look at the money that we've spent so far with RDA money, CDBG money, and private monies from people, there's been more than $2 million spent in the last 5 or 6 years in trying to deal with the effects of that groundwater depletion and subsidence. So what we're pursuing now is a study grant that we'd be getting, and then hopefully some money from FEMA to kind of help along with this. But other funds, of course, are helpful as well as we try to find a permanent solution to this. Any other questions? All righty.
I just like to take a moment and just say the residents are really resilient, and I know that it's kind of frustrating with their homes moving and stuff. And this isn't a citywide effect. It's kind of centered in one neighborhood, but for the most part, most of the residents aren't really being affected by it because we've changed building codes to account for that. So the change, so it's more soil surveys going deeper to dictate how the buildings are built. So they caught it. We made some changes in our building codes. It's on top of the IBC just to make sure these homes, any new construction doesn't sink as best we can. Obviously, we all know Mother Nature wins in the end. So, but again, thank you for everybody's time.
Yeah, thanks, Sam and Greg. That's very interesting, a unique challenge you're facing. Next, we have a presentation about the statewide traffic data and uses. Kelly Njord and who's that? Azra, did I say it correctly? Here from UDOT, and we're really grateful. Last time their presentation didn't work out online, so we're glad they're here in person, and we'll turn the time to them.
Oh, my tech conspired against me that day. Did not want to let me connect. So while Nazat's connecting, I'm going to give you a quick rundown of what we have. So I'm Kelly Nord. I'm the statewide traffic ops engineer for UDOT. My primary job is to review operations for the state. So basically anything big or weird. But also part of my job is to manage all of the traffic operations data for the state. And we have two main data sets that we collect. We collect data from radar units that we install alongside the freeway. And then we also collect probe traffic data. And there are two different sets. The one we're here to talk about today is the probe traffic data. This is available statewide. I just purchased a new data set and is that better? Sorry. Oh, sorry. Okay.
Just turn there's a button at the top to turn it on.
Is this on? Is
Is
that
it
working?
red?
It's red.
Yeah, it's on.
Okay. Okay, sorry. So the data set we're going to be talking about today is the probe traffic data set, and that's available statewide. I just negotiated a new agreement with our data vendor to share this data for free with all of our cities, all our contractors, all our consultants, all our ski resorts, basically all of our transportation partners. So this is available for you for free. It's available online. We also have our radar data that's available online. I'm working with a couple of cities right now and installing radar units to collect data at specific spots. Any city that's interested in following suit, more than happy to work with you guys. We provide the software for free. We just have you install the sensors and we can connect you with contractors to do that. So this probe traffic data set, this is collected all of our roads all the way down to our major collectors, and it's speeds and travel times. And basically it's tracking vehicles. So it's a data sample and it's tracking them as they move. So it's anonymous. We don't have any, individual identifiers, but as a vehicle moves alongside the road, any kind of technology that they're using, like vehicle navigation systems or cell phone applications, we're collecting a sample of that. So we see the car here, it moves forward, we see the car again. So it's a little transponder basically that connects to the vehicle as it moves. So again, speeds and travel times, it's available on a system called ClearGuide. Some of the things that the department is using it for right now is project prioritization. It goes right into the algorithm that the state uses to prioritize projects based on congestion. Sorry, and I made a list, so I didn't forget any of them. Another one we're using it too is to respond to public inquiries. So for example, we had a spike in traffic congestion down in Region 4 in some of our rural areas randomly in the beginning of October. Why that happened? So we got a lot of questions. Region director called up, what the heck is going on? We pulled it up. Turns out the deer hunt season triggers this demand. And who would have thought, right? A deer hunt. I didn't think that was a thing, but apparently it's really big. Enough to spike traffic. And we were able to collect video on that and explain that. So we monitor all of the traffic news-related articles that come out for the state, and we actually put a video together beforehand. So when people call in, we say, oh yeah, we actually have a video for you, and we can share it, and we can show you exactly what happened that day and why. So we use that to respond to public inquiries. We also respond to inquiries from legislature with some of this data. We track our MOT, so maintenance of traffic during construction. We're tracking how traffic behaves when our construction is out there. And we're going to be talking about an alert system specifically for that today. We do before-after studies. So when we build a project, then we can go back in afterwards and say, well, how much benefit was there? And that makes a big difference in advocating for funding for the department later. Because when we're able to communicate on a level that everyone understands and says, okay, you gave us this amount of money and this is what we did with it. And that was super effective and this is why. So that's been really useful. Park City is using it to evaluate bus routes and better plan their bus routes and how long those travel times are taking. Park City and us are using it to post travel times on our big VMS boards over our freeways and give people our alternatives. So we're using it for that. Our main traffic operations center is using it to monitor congestion outside our camera coverage. So we have a lot of cameras. There's a lot of areas that we can't see. And if we don't get a call from somebody saying it's a problem, we may not know. So we're doing like a live situational awareness of all our traffic using this data. We're also using it to post information for ski resorts and national parks. We're monitoring our permits areas. That's a new development. So wherever we grant a permit, we're able to manage how construction operates. One example I was thinking with my city that I live in, Murray City granted a permit for construction right next to a school. And I can only imagine how many calls that poor city got because they decided to close the main route for the kids to get to school. And so exactly, like if you had known about that beforehand, I'm sure they would have been able to avert a lot of calls. That would have been really bad. Another one I was thinking was there was another city that had a school zone that was left on all day, which happens. I imagine this data, you would be able to manage that. You would be able to get an alert if a school zone gets left on, because sometimes that happens, right? So a lot of different uses. This is the system. Nazat is my lead engineer for this software. She's going to be walking you through a quick how-to, but we're more than happy to follow up with one-on-one trainings for anybody that's interested in using it.
Thank you, Kelly. Yes, I'll just show all the features that we have with this quick slide, and if we have time at the end, we can jump into the website and show it all. This is the website that Kelly is talking about, and this is the link to it. This data, that travel time and speed data that's available over here, the data is for free. So if you are from UDOT or a partner to UDOT, you can register for an account and you can be able to use all the data that's in here. So this is what the homepage looks like, and at the top you can see all the different features it has. So the very first cool feature that it has is a real-time map where we can go in and see which roads are congested and which roads are performing pretty well. Like you can see there's some red zones in I-80, and pretty much all the other places are looking pretty good at this time. Also at the top left, there's a calendar feature that's saying today when I took the screenshot, but you can also click on that and look back a month, a year. And if you remember a particular event, like Kelly was talking about why was Region 4 so bad, you can go back to that date and see the congestion build up at that region. And it's very handy. And if you feel like that's a very, like the transition that you're seeing, it's very interesting and you want to show it to other people, you can record that video by clicking on that heart button at the top. And it will let you record the video from, let's say, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. for a particular section. Here I'm showing just, there was a closure on Legacy Parkway, and wasn't sure why it was sending me some alert that travel time is really bad over here. But then we went in and saw that there was a closure, and that's why it happened. So we saved a video for that one, and want to play this video, but yeah. So after a while, you can see how the colors are changing. It shows like from green to it becomes black, which is not a good traffic condition. So that's the usage of real-time map. And we also have a time series feature where we can check different average speed, average travel time. If we wanted to show improvement, or how like a system is probably, we're thinking, okay, it's getting really bad, but we need data to show it. So we can go back in time and let's say we can compare July travel time for a particular section of the road to June travel time, or like 2022 July travel time. And we can actually see the transition in here, like this one. This one is showing average speed with the blue lines and average travel time in the green line. But we can also download this data for months or years and actually see the numbers to see if they're improving or not. And the last feature that, not last, but one of the features that we recently added, that we are getting all the travel time and speed information for, and we are storing them for years. But what if we can use it so it could alert us whenever the travel time gets really bad on a section of the road? So we can actively monitor. Instead of coming here and checking it every single time, we can get an email or something which would say, okay, this section is really congested. So that's our alerts. If you can see that routes, under routes at the very end, there's an alerts. So if you click on it, it just shows a very simple form where we can create an alert for specific route. So at the left, you can see that we can select the route, and this route is pretty much selecting route on Google Map. So we can actually show, okay, go from this point to that point and select that segment of the road. So after we create the route, we can also create the alert for that. This is where we do it. And we can select different alert types, like you can see over here, high travel time, low speed, or roadway closure. So any of the alerts we can select over here, and it's going to send us an email whenever the travel time is above a set threshold. So let's say I say travel time is more than 20 minutes, send me an email. And the system is going to do that. The same for average speed. If it drops below a certain level, it's going to send me an alert. And we can also select, set the time, date and time range for that. So if I have a construction that's going to last only for 2 weeks of a certain time, I can set a time limit on that so it doesn't keep sending me alerts all the time. So we can control it from here. And we can also set the alert frequency. So there's a tolerance level. If the congestion is super bad for 15 minutes, let me know. But if the congestion is just bad for 5 minutes, the alert won't let me know. This is where I control it with select alert thresholds. 15 minutes, 5 minutes, 1 hour. What's my tolerance for that? So just to give you a quick overview of what the email looks like. In the left, it's showing the email when the alert got activated. It sent me an email. It's on Cottonwood Canyon. And it's showing all the information that, okay, the alert got activated on July 7th and 9 a.m. And that was the speed. And on the left, it also sends us an alert when the alert, congestion is cleared. So we know how long the congestion lasted. So I think this is a very helpful feature. So it kind of lets us know that it's bad out there and it needs our immediate attention. Another And it has like a lot of different links to it. So if we want to know more about it, we can click on the different links, like check the time series of that route, or if I don't remember what my route looked like, okay, this is what my route looked like, the A to B of that route. Or I can manage my alert in here, change things, and also it takes us to the real-time map and actually show what the transition of the speed was there at that time. And this is a very helpful page, I feel like, if you are managing a lot of alerts in your city or in your region. This gives a quick overview, and I apologize, this is super tiny. But this gives a quick overview of which alerts got activated at what time, and they got cleared at what time, and how long they lasted, and what the conditions were. So if you have like a lot of alerts in there and you don't want to receive a ton of email, you just want to check them at the end, this is the page where you would do that. And this is another feature which under extras, if you see top, click on extras, it kind of shows you the top bottlenecks in your Zoom level. And this one is just showing the top bottlenecks for July 2023. And you can see on the map US 6 and then I-15, like those areas are based on travel time, they are not doing very good. Also, we will share these links with everyone. And if you want to know how you can use the different features, we have very helpful videos on UDOT traffic data website, and this is a link to it. So if you go there, scroll down, this is at the right, training for clear guide. That's where you can find all the instructions for that. And if you have any questions, you can ask us today, or if you remember something later, you can always reach out to us through our emails and phone numbers. Do we have any time left? Can we show the website? Or?
Yeah, I think so.
But any questions so far?
One question, is this like an upgrade or a replacement for the PEMS data?
No, this is in addition to the PEMS data. So the PEMS data is another website that houses all of the department's radar traffic data. So a radar unit is mounted on the side of the road and it looks at just one spot, right? So it's going to count every single vehicle as it crosses its visual path, and it identifies the vehicle length, its spot speed, and what lane it's in, and the timestamp, and it counts it. So that's highly granular data. That's where you can actually get the traffic counts, whereas this probe data is just a sample. So PEMS is still out there. That's still available publicly. If you just Google UDOT traffic data, you'll find our website. It comes up top. That's a system that we've got a couple of cities, Park City, Vineyard, and Orem right now. They've installed some of their own radar units, and then we connect them to our system for free, and they access, we pay to store the data, we pay for the analytics, they just access it. So all they're paying for is the radar unit itself and maintaining it. But the nice thing about the radar data is you're able to collect multi-modes too. So those radar units are capable of picking up pedestrians and bikes and cars if you wanted to configure them that way. So that might be a use case for maybe some of your trail systems. I have a contact if you're interested on getting that installed, I can send you in the right direction. But this is in addition to PEMS. So ClearGuide's a completely different system that just houses our probe data. One day, my perfect future, Kelly's goals in life is to have both of those in the same system. So my goal is eventually when you pull up this map in ClearGuide, you'll have a bunch of little pins that will identify all of the radar data, and they'll be in one system. But until then, it's two.
Kelly, and I can send out the information in a follow-up email to the group. There were 2 questions in the chat. Can you share the link? And I shared the link for you. The next question from Jay Aguilar is, how do the national parks use it?
Oh, that's a really good question. So we've got a couple of uses for the national parks. SR9 on the approach to Zion, they have a number of VMS that actually direct people regarding parking. So they automatically display how full the parking lots are, and that is tied to the radar data. So you need radar to get counts, and that's how they're identifying when their parking structures are full, and they're giving that notice ahead of time so people don't drive all the way to the Zion entrance, find out the parking lot is full, and then drive back through the city looking for parking. So they're using it for that. They're also using it for travel time advisories. So just these little side BMS on the side saying this is how long it's going to take you to get there. We're looking at doing a dashboard for Moab. That hasn't happened yet, but that is an option. We're also working with Brian Head Ski Resort and the Cottonwood Canyon Ski Resorts on posting travel times. And then they have a dashboard. If you look up the Cottonwood Canyon's dashboard for ski resorts, they have, same with the radar data, they're collecting how many people are going into the canyons, and then they're giving an update automatically on the dashboard on how full the canyons are. So there's like a little dial on their dashboard that says, okay, we're almost at capacity. And then we light up our big VMS on 215 in approach to the canyons, letting them know what the travel time is up to the ski resort. So, and that's kind of what Brian Head wants to do too. So that's what we're working with them on. Any other questions? So I spent a lot of money to share this with the cities in my new negotiations. So please, if there's anything you guys can use it for, I really am interested in making sure that everyone has access to it. I'm happy to walk you through it. Nazat's happy to walk you through it. Train anybody that you need to have access to it. Because I just felt like the taxpayers are paying for this, and I should make sure that as many people that can get access and use it. So I also have money for software development too. So if you get into this and you're like, you know, I really wish it would do this and it'd be so useful, we are all ears. We would love to hear about it.
Okay, there's a question.
Yeah.
So as far as the data that's collected, how sensitive is it? For example, if a city looking at we'll use West Point here on 300 North, how early the peak travel is, so they know how early a crossing guard or something. Is that how quick or how sensitive could that be implemented? And how quick can the data come back so they could know this fall we need a crossing guard at 7:30 instead of 7:45 or?
Yeah, that's a really good idea. So sensitivity is two things, right? How quickly you get the data and how accurate it is, right? So this is live every 5 minutes. That's the granularity of the probe data. The radar data is live every 20 seconds, so super fast. You can access both of those through an API. So if you're interested in like automating that, we have that available, or the reports you can pull up in the two systems that we have. The data accuracy, the probe data is about like 94% is where it kind of sits. It all depends on occlusion. So if you have a really wide road with a lot of heavy trucks obscuring other vehicles, then your accuracy kind of goes down. But with narrow roads, accuracy is super awesome with radar. The probe data accuracy depends on how heavy your traffic is on your road. So the more cars are on the road, the more samples I get in the data set and the more accurate it becomes. So with our last data set, we had a company called Wejo on board. And you guys, I was so excited. So are you guys familiar with the Four Corners area? It's like nobody's out there, super, super rural, right? I had a road that got 100 vehicles per hour per lane demand, and I got accurate results on that. That is like amazing. I was super excited about it. So we have really, really great accuracy on low volume roads. That was with Wejo. Wejo filed bankruptcy in June. It was not a cool day. So we are negotiating with another data vendor right now, and we're onboarding them right now. That's happening. So hopefully with this next data set, I'm being told that it's just as good as Wejo and we'll get the same results. So we'll find out in like September. But I'm hoping that we've still got that super awesome accuracy. So any other questions?
We got another question on chat.
Oh, okay.
How long is the data and video archived so you can look back in time?
Super awesome question. So for my radar data, I have data back as far as the radar existed, that specific unit. So it depends, right? If you just put one out there today, then I have today's data. But for some of my radar units, I have back to 2007, like super far back. And if you really want to get into like historical data, some of our radar goes back to like 1980, and that's in a different database. But if you really want to play games with that, I'll let you know how to get it. With our clear guide data, with this new data contract, I fought hard for sharing this with everyone, which is why I'm here. I'm trying to get as many people access to it. So because it was such a massive security change, I had to open up a new instance of ClearGuide. So I have 2 instances of ClearGuide right now, and I'm loading historical data right now in this ClearGuide. So eventually, when all that data is loaded, that will go back to January 2018. Right now, my software developers are scrambling, trying to get all that data in. So right now, it goes back to like August of 2022, yeah. So the old instance of ClearGuide with a higher security restrictions goes back to 2014. But frankly, to be honest with you, there's a huge growth rate to be considered on the accuracy of probe data, because back in 2014, there were not as many vehicles using vehicle navigation systems. There's just fewer apps out there doing that. And if you look between 2014 and 2018, it's crazy, the data accuracy, how fast that is. So yeah, complicated answer to the question, but hopefully that covered it.
We have time for more questions. We have more questions.
Do we have more time for questions, or they have more? I don't want to, I'm trying to talk fast. So that,
Yeah, I think there's time for one more question.
okay.
Can you evaluate the extent of excessive speeds?
Very good question. Can you evaluate the extent of excessive speeds statewide? So I work with Highway Patrol a lot on this because that's their #1 question, right? Is where are speeders? Where should we put our patrol cars? And the answer is yes, kind of. So because it's a sample, I can't technically give you the speed of every car that goes through there. Now with radar, I can. And with Highway Patrol, when they wanted to go to legislature and lobby for stricter penalties on excessive speeding, and they want to give a growth on how that max percentile, that like 99th percentile speed, because it's like over 100, it's crazy high. In order to give that, I've had to use radar data because that gives you the true percentile. Because in order to calculate the percentile, you technically need to know the speed of every vehicle that went through there. Because probe data is a sample, I may or may not have the sample of the high-speed car in that data set. So you might have one car going 50, one car going 60, one going 70, and one going 80. I might have the car going 50 and the one going 70 in my data set, but I might be missing the other two. So overall, you can see generally where your areas are higher speeds. So you can track that, but you got to keep in mind that it's just a sample. Okay, we good? So please email me or Nazat if you have any other questions. We're super passionate about this.
Thank you, Kelly and Nazat. That's very useful information. Hopefully we can take advantage of that. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Next item is the functional classification process review. Wayne?
Thanks, Boyd. Just wanted to put a reminder to you that if you feel like there are roads in your community that are functioning like a major or minor collector or an arterial, please reach out to me. Rosie's putting my email in the chat. I'm not asking for a wholesale review, but if there are roads, a road or a few roads, that wholesale review might be coming in the not too distant future, by the way. Anyway, love to talk with you and explore if there's a road or roads in your community that ought to be classified in the functional classification system that's statewide that determines federal aid eligibility. Love to talk with you. You'll probably recall that functionally classified roads are the ones that are eligible for Surface Transportation Program funding, which in and of itself is not a good reason to functionally classify a road just to make it eligible. But if the road truly functions as at a higher level than a residential street, then please reach out. You'll also probably recall that in order for a project where you want to add through travel lanes, that needs to be identified in the regional transportation plan. And Jory Johnner, you might put Jory's email in the chat also. Thank you. But Jory Johnner is the one to reach out to. That's a more time-sensitive process to have a project, a widening, through lane widening project added to the regional transportation plan. So any questions, Paul? Yes, yes. Thank you. Question was, is there a website that shows what the current functional classification is? The answer is yes. We'll, in the follow-up meeting materials, we'll send out that link. There'll also be a link in the funding programs packet that Ben referred to. But yeah, it's not totally, anyway, yes is the short answer, and you're exactly right. That's the place to start to see what's already functionally classified. So, other questions? Thanks, Paul. All right, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Wayne. There's just a couple of items under the last item, other business. Kip Billings has some information about safe roads. Kip, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here. Is my screen being shared?
Yes, we can see it, Ben.
Okay.
Excuse me, Kip.
Yes, I just wanted to quickly tell you about the work that's taking place as part of the Safe Streets for All program. You should have received, if you're seeing this, my screen, all right, this invitation about a launch meeting on August 22nd. If you didn't receive one of these emails and calendar invitations, contact me after the meeting and we'll see that you get that. It was quite a project to assemble several different email lists and get these notices out. To give you a little background, this is part of the Investment in Infrastructure and Jobs Act. This Safe Streets for All is a program to finally give local communities the resources to make safety improvements to their local streets. One of the first requirements was that before communities can qualify for those funds, there needs to be a regional or a comprehensive safety study done. And so the cities and counties in our region came to Wasatch Front to ask us to lead this safety study effort. And you'll notice on the funding programs that were discussed earlier today, this was not included because this will not be a Wasatch Front managed funding program. This is just to do the study. And as you can see here, this little comment that this is a plan to provide local governments the means to make strategic roadway safety improvements. So once the study is in place to help local communities identify safety needs on a comprehensive basis, things that apply to the region in general, then it's will be up to individual communities, maybe in partnership with adjoining communities, to apply for the funds to make improvements that are needed. So again, this will happen on August 22nd at 10 o'clock. There will be a virtual meeting, and we encourage you to attend. The meeting will identify some preliminary findings on roadway crashes in the region. And later on in the development of this study, we will go to a dozen different geographic areas to focus on the safety needs in your particular community. We have retained Kimley Horn consultants to prepare this study. They're also working with Fair and Piers and Penna Power to do this work. So you'll be hearing more about it. And again, if you didn't get the invitation, contact me after the meeting. And I can entertain any questions if there are. But that's what I had to share with you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kip. One last item from Wayne. You've got some information.
Just for time's sake, I think what we'll do is put another, in addition to this Safe Streets for All that Kip mentioned, there are a couple of other discretionary grant programs across the country with application deadlines coming up this month and in September. We'll just include those in the follow-up meeting materials. Thanks.
Hey, thank you, Wayne. I think that brings us to the end of the meeting. So thank you, everybody, for your participation. Our next meeting will be October 18th, correct? Okay. If there's nothing else, we're dismissed. Thank you.